Hi YouTube, it's Neberos again, and today's video is going to be a bit of a somber one, um, because I wanted to talk about the Charlie Kirk shooting that happened yesterday. Um, I'm not someone who's easily rattled, especially when it involves people I don't know, but this one shook me. Not in the way of like, oh, Donald Trump was elected president, I'm literally shaking. No, not like that. Um, I don't really know or understand why. Um, but it bothers me. And from where I sit, I wasn't following Charlie Kirk a lot, and um, I saw like YouTube shorts here and there where he dismantled really rather silly arguments, but he chose to take on the arguments, right? And I think for the most part, what he got people to do was actually think and question their worldviews. And guys, listen, there's nothing wrong with questioning what you think you know. Right. If anyone's going to find their way in life, it's to start by admitting they don't know where the hell they are. And that way you start asking the right questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions either. Perhaps you'll laugh, but in the uh, animated Peter Pan from back in the day, they say, why does the red man ask you how? And it said, once the engine didn't know all the things that he knows now, but the engine he sure learned a lot, and it's all from asking how. So perhaps you'll laugh, you can if you want to, but if that makes you chuckle, that's fine. I'm happy. But the point is, you only learn by asking questions. Only a great fool thinks they know everything. Only a great fool thinks that asking questions is a weakness and a problem. Simon Sinek, I don't know if you know about him, but Simon Sinek said, "Be the idiot in the room and ask what may sound like a stupid question, because it's almost certain that someone in that room or many people in that room are thinking the exact same thing, but nobody wants to ask the question because they think it's a stupid question." So be the idiot in the room, ask your questions. And that way you get to thinking about things. And I think that's what Charlie Kirk was most effective at doing. He got people to think, and that's what they shot him for. He wasn't a threat to American democracy. He wasn't a fascist or a Nazi or anything like that. If anything, he was moderate. And but he got people thinking, and so he was a threat to a particular worldview and narrative. And that's probably why they shot him. I don't know. That's just what I thought. And I wanted to look through tweets and stuff about it here. We'll go through just a few here. You got this individual, Niara VT, who, well, now I can't seem to find the right tweets. But in any case, here says, I swear to God, people need to think before they tweet something. Gun violence is never okay, and it shouldn't be normalized just because you dislike dislike the victim. I hate Charlie Kirk, but he didn't deserve this. Nobody does. But then in the next, then in the not there, um, but then in the next one, and for this one, you can see Niara's quoting that tweet we just read. So I swear to God, people need to think, I hate Charlie Kirk, but he didn't deserve this. So that seems reasonable. That seems right, yeah. But then he looks, surely the people on the right will now stop calling for the death of Hassan. Citation needed. Like, who's doing that? I haven't seen it. I don't care much for Hassan. I think the world would be a better place without him, but that doesn't mean I want him dead. I think maybe he just needs to disappear onto an island somewhere and leave the world alone. And then he says, surely they will now take a moment to think that their words have real world consequences. So, as I read it, Niara is saying that Charlie Kirk's death is the real world consequence of his words. So it's Charlie Kirk's fault that some nut job shot him. But that was my initial read, and now, after having had time to think, it's more a case of Maybe the real world consequences of words is the persistent framing of political opponents as fascists and Nazis. Maybe the nut job who shot Charlie Kirk thought he was getting rid of a Nazi, because that's what happens when you call people you disagree with politically and ideologically Nazis for what, near on 10 years. I mean, he was only 31, and I don't know how long Charlie Kirk had been doing his thing for. The man's younger than I am, or was younger than I am. So I don't know that he'd been doing it for too long. But I've been following commentary like that since 2014, so for at least 9 years. And we've been seeing a massive upswing in people calling political opponents fascists and Nazis and everything. So perhaps Charlie Kirk's death is more a reflection on that sort of framing than it is on anything that Charlie Kirk had to say. But in any case, the accusation here, the implication is reprehensible and disgusting, and kind of just really makes the point. Although credit to Niara, the obfuscates and cloaks it very, very well. And then here you've got, I saw this one from Darling Straub, says we must reject political violence. If you disagree with someone, don't harm them, and certainly don't murder them. I'm so disgusted with the world and seeing people cheer, God help us all. No disrespect to Straub, but I don't think God cares too much, to be honest, or else this sort of thing wouldn't happen in the first place. Think about that Ukrainian girl that was stabbed in the subway. You know, if God was going to do something, he'd have protected her then. But I'm not a particularly religious person, so and I don't begrudge her faith. I think it might be misplaced, but you know, some people need that. And well, I just saw this one. Uh, Captain Tanker Joe says at this point you are literally telling people not to defend themselves. No, it's not. Don't defend yourselves. Hell, even the Jedi used lightsabers and they were keepers of the peace. And keeping peace often necessitates use of force. But that doesn't mean go around murdering political opponents. And then that's what this guy says. The Dragon Treasure here says, with all due respect, you are wrong and you need to stop. Only one side has rejected political violence, the other side has used it constantly. Notice how he's not clear on what sides. When one side is fighting a war and the other side is dying in the war, going, I hope no war breaks out, that makes one side fools. Reject posts like these. This mindset will get us nowhere. It'll only get us more bodies. And then in my notifications further down, um, I mentioned something about, I said that what happened today should galvanize the people on both sides who reject violence against, reading it, I should actually have maybe phrased it differently, but so we should galvanize against the violent radical elements on both sides. And I'm not sure what form that should take. I'm not sure how that would work without actually becoming the violent people ourselves. And this person says the peaceful, I said, it's time for the peaceful majority to at last be relevant. Now I'm going to play a little bit of a clip here. I could have maybe got it up beforehand. Um, and we'll be doing reaction. I'll be doing reactions to from other VTubers like Smugglana. You see, I've just opened a tab in another, opened a new tab. Brigitte Gabriel about the peaceful majority. Now it's only a 4-minute clip, so uh, yeah, let's just get into it. But I agree with her wholeheartedly about the peaceful majority.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace to you all. My name is Saba Ahmed. I'm a law student at American University. I am here to ask you a simple question. I know that we portray Islam and all Muslims as bad, but there's 1.8 billion Muslim followers of Islam. We have 8 million plus Muslim Americans in this country, and I don't see them represented here. But my question is, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons? How can we ever end this war? The jihadist ideology that you talk about, it's an ideology. How can you ever win this thing if you don't address it ideologically?
Great question. I am so glad you're here, and I am so glad you brought that up because it gives us an opportunity to answer. What I find so amazing is since the beginning of this panel, which we are here about Benghazi attack against our people, not one person mentioned Muslims. We are here against Islam, or we're launching war against Muslims. We are here to discuss how 4 Americans died and what our government is doing.
So yeah, this clip is about 10 years old, but this part isn't all that
We
relevant.
were not here to bash
But
Muslims. You were the one who brought up the issue about most Muslims, not us. And since you brought it up, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful.
for the mass, that's around about 300 million that are estimated to be radical.
People. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big of the United States.
Yeah.
So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died. Almost 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? And since you are the only Muslim representative,
You can see where I'm going with this one. So yeah, I said it's time for the peaceful majority to at last become relevant. Because it's not I'm assuming the person who shot Charlie Kirk, because at this stage he is at large. The guy they had in the suspect they had turned out not to be him. I'm going to assume it was a politically motivated thing, or rather less political and more ideological. But the problem is that the majority of people who share that man's ideology, I'm assuming it's a man too, they probably wouldn't have shot Charlie Kirk, but this person did. And so now you've got, as we saw, I think it was here maybe, or where did I have? Yeah. Charlie Kirk's death puts a spotlight on the rise in political violence. So, and apparently even people like Gavin Newsom, people on both sides of the political spectrum have decried Charlie Kirk's death and the use of political violence and the use of violence in a political sense. So that's great, but it's not enough for just leadership to do it. It's got to be everybody. We have all got to hold, especially the people on our side, we've got to hold them accountable. We've got to hold them to a standard. It's like you cannot go around assassinating your political opponents. No matter how much you may want to, no matter how much you may disagree with them, you can't go around killing people. I mean, last year, what it was Trump at Pennsylvania who got shot at, far less successfully than Charlie Kirk, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your views and how I mean that. I mean that it's unfortunate that he got shot at in the first place, but in any case. But so you have people like Ocelot here saying the peaceful majority has to have a minority able and willing to do violence in its name to keep the peace. Well, I suppose on some level thinking, the Jedi from Star Wars might be silly examples and you're allowed to laugh, but I don't know of any real world examples to draw on. So you refuse to admit that even in a peaceful society, the law is the violence that must be used. My personal feel is that at this point, as a society, as a species, we should have outgrown the need for violence in the first place. I don't think it's necessary to be violent in discussions. We can hammer out agreements. Ukraine and Russia, Israel and Palestine, although Palestine and Israel is more a war of religion than anything else, and ideology, so it's more difficult. But Russia and Ukraine, totally unnecessary. An agreement could be reached, but you got to have people willing. And the problem is not that we can't actually just sit down and talk, it's that people aren't willing to sit down and talk. And that's what really bothers me. It's like you'd rather cause the deaths of hundreds or thousands, or even just one in the case of Charlie Kirk, instead of just talking it out. And that's what he was all about. Sit down, let's talk. This is not a man who deserved to die. And I think that's what I'm wrestling with the most because, yeah, it was just totally senseless. Out of nowhere. No one expected it. And I hope they catch the guy. But actually, while we're going, let's just react to what Smugglana said. She'd have put together a better video than I can. I'm still learning, so it's all very much amateur hour. But this video might drag on to be a bit long in this case.
As I was saying, we'll address part of it, okay? For the record, chat, this is likely all we're gonna look at today regarding this subject.
Yeah.
This is all I'm comfortable talking about in this respect, okay? After this, we're gonna move on and probably try and look at more uplifting things, keep it up, keep the vibes up, all that.
Yeah.
So, what did Mr. Asman say regarding Charlie Kirk's tragedy? Anyone surprised what happened to Charlie Kirk hasn't been paying attention, go anywhere on Reddit, Twitter, and you'll find thousands of unhinged direct calls to violence over politics.
Absolutely. I've seen actually, you know what? We can have a look. Now, this is probably going to be triggering. I'm going to say citation needed with that one. In light of today's shooting death of Charlie Kirk, it's worth remembering that while Paul Pelosi was lying in the ICU with a fractured skull, vile ghouls like Don Jr. thought it was a comedy content. Yeah, but okay, in the first place, it was wasn't it Paul Pelosi's boyfriend who beat him with the hammer? I don't know, but I remember seeing this back when it happened, and I denounced it as well. Like this is the exact sort of radicalization, the sort of unhinged opinions we don't need, right? This is the sort of thing both sides should be mad about, yeah? Rip Charlie Kirk, you're in a better place now. Please pray for his family. He was only 31 with a wife and two small children. I saw one that's like, uh, your children don't have a father anymore. Lol. Disgusting. Sucker Punch Senior Dev celebrates Charlie Kirk's death. I hope the shooter's name is Mario so that Luigi knows his bro got his back. What the fuck? He died doing what he loved, being a transphobic, racist bigot. Except he wasn't. You know? I agree with Drinker here. You see, I can retweet it. Whether you agree with him or not, Charlie Kirk is dead purely because some people didn't like what he had to say. That should outrage every single one of us. And actually, it should make us all afraid. It should make us all think about what we say and how we say it, not just on the left or the right, but both sides, because what it means is that some radical nut job on one side or the other is going to probably pop you just because you said something he doesn't like, unless we deal with this sort of thing. We're going to ignore that one. Spot the difference. Charlie Kirk vigil versus George Floyd riot. We are not the same. Yeah, it's wrong message to be making. Yeah, again, like Rebecca Jones, you're a terrible person. The murder of Charlie Kirk is a turning point in the USA. I hope those leftists understand what they wished for. Yeah, this is what Charlie Kirk was wearing today. This is what he fought for every day. A Freedom t-shirt. Ghost of Yota has doubled down on celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. I've been told that Twitter has noticed me from across the room, and we are... I'm not reading all of that. Don't know what that has to do with anything. Never forget this young man. Yep. So lots of it in terms of not lots of it showing like support and sadness and large vigil for him. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. Declaring war is not only dumb but incredibly dangerous. Whatever. Yeah, you want to if you really want to go see unhinged shit about Charlie Kirk, head over to Blue Sky. I saw the one that said, "I hope the bullet's okay after touching Charlie Kirk." Like, I don't understand why that's necessary, and that's exactly the sort of thing that both sides should be like. All these people celebrating his assassination is exactly the sort of thing that both sides should be condemning outright, without reservation, without hesitation. They should be called out from both sides of the spectrum and told, you know what, this is not acceptable. The reason this sort of shit happens, I think, is because we've lost what is socially acceptable. We allow too much. You know, think about people just doing whatever they want, you know, uh, the, the people walking into the store, grabbing whatever they want and walking out. It's because they're not held to a societal standard of what's acceptable anymore, because we become so lax in that sort of thing. And this is the end result, apparently. And it needs to be sorted out. It needs to be fixed, because this can't go on. If we now have to start putting speakers behind bulletproof podiums if they're speaking outside, or relegating it to speaking inside, I mean, some nut job with a long gun can still pop somebody from across an auditorium. It might be a little bit harder and more noticeable, but you know, you'll get the people who will do that. But yeah, reactions to what others saying, like Smagalana and Rev says Desu. He's probably got some videos going on, but I'll be doing recordings about on reactions about this later on. So keep an eye out for that. But that was that video. Pretty sick of this shit, actually. This is why I got out of politics. It's unnecessary. I don't think I wouldn't celebrate it even if it was anybody on the left or anybody I disagreed with. If it was Hillary Clinton, I'd still be saying, you know what, this is stupid. This shouldn't have happened. Why? You don't need to kill your political opponents, right? So, yeah, that's that. Keep an eye out for more videos, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, everybody, and start questioning. Start asking questions. It's healthy. Take care. Bye bye.